There's my lamp.
Yeah.
Welcome to Journey Through the Eyes, the EMDR podcast that is here to unveil and explore the transformative power of EMDR therapy. Here at Journey Through the Eyes, our mission is to support both the new and seasoned clinicians with those critical conversations and powerful resources about EMDR therapy and powerful ways that you can build your private practice. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Tamera J. Brown, licensed professional counselor and certified EMDR therapist. I'm so excited. Feel so proud to say that. Okay. I have with me my beautiful and just amazing co-host and sister friend, Miss Kathy on the couch.
I am Kathy Couch out here in Twin Falls, Idaho, and I really feel like I'm just honored to be with both of you today. We have my very special guest, Ann Swanson, and I just will give a brief kind of history. When I was first going to the classes trying to learn about all this EMDR stuff, they recommended that I contact the Business Development Center here in Twin Falls. And really what I needed was some marketing strategies and help. And they referred me to Ann, and she's not where I live, but she is in a neighboring town, Pocatello, Idaho. Ann Swanson's with the Southern Idaho Business Development Center, and she's just giving me practical tools and help. Her goal is to help small businesses, and she's probably learned a little bit about EMDR along the way. So I'm going to introduce our guest speaker today. Ann Swanson will be talking about small business development centers and anything else the conversation has to offer. So just going to kind of let Ann introduce herself and maybe give a brief background on what she does and those sorts of things.
Yeah, thank you for having me on today. So I've been a business consultant with the Small Business Development Center Network since about 2012. And for everybody out there in podcast land, the Small Business Development Center is a taxpayer-funded organization that's nationwide. We're usually hosted on a university campus, and our job is to provide no-cost consulting and low-cost training to any small business. So that means on a daily basis, I help small businesses with things like marketing. In our case, Kathy, that's what we've worked on a lot. I also work with businesses on developing startup plans. I work with businesses on financial management and preparing financials for financing, so helping people get ready to go to a bank or another lender. We work with businesses that are buying and selling, so we work on both sides of that equation. We also work with small businesses on strategy, so thinking about how they're going to grow, what kinds of markets they could approach. We work with them on entity formation and managing employees, among many other things. We pride ourselves on being an encyclopedia of business advice and resources. So the best part of all is we're free and confidential. So you can find your local small business development center by Googling it.
So Ann, you said something really important there about the colleges. How did that come up where the business development centers were hosted by colleges? Can you share a little bit about how that?
Yeah, the Small Business Development Center network began in the early 80s. And it was a decision that the Small Business Administration made. They're kind of our mothership and one of our funders, to bring business consulting really to the businesses themselves in communities. And the reason they look to educational institutions to host us is, first of all, because they're already a trusted community resource. And then the second reason is when they're hosted in a university setting, then we also can bring to bear all of the resources in the university. So I've had professors have some time with clients. I've had regularly have students and student groups work on in-depth marketing research projects or other kinds of operations management projects for clients. So it's really a way of expanding and complementing resources. And then the SBDC gets to be the kind of community outreach arm of, typically it's a college of business that would host us, or economics. So it's a nice relationship between this SBDC center and the university.
I know that you do a lot of things. I know that you have done a lot of things. My piece is just a little sliver of what you've done. And so for therapists that are looking maybe for this resource, they would maybe kind of Google small business development centers in their state, or how would that look?
Yeah, if you Google Small Business Development Center Idaho, you'll get our website that comes right up,
Oh.
and you can use that to make an appointment. I'm pretty sure if you Google Small Business Development Center Florida, Colorado, you'll get the same thing. It should be available to you. And I think every state has an online booking function you can use, and their phone numbers too. You can call us as well.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things is that you guys hosted a trademark intellectual property course. So you brought, okay, this is kind of a divine story, but I was trying to decide, should I do a trademark? Should I not? And then I'm in my class and they're like, oh, by the way, the USPTO, which is the United States Patent Office, will be in Twin Falls, Idaho tomorrow. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, here's my answer. And so I got to go to that training that talked about trademarks and copyrights and patents. And it was a very valuable conversation. So I think even those trainings in the community are just very valuable and important. I think what's cool about you, Ann, is you have a lot of different kinds of background other than business,
Yeah.
different career paths. Would you want to share about sort of how you transitioned from that into where you are now?
Yeah, you bet. I started my career in college, and began as a marketing journalism major, and then switched to marketing communications. So I do have a little bit of academic background, although that's pretty outdated by now. Um, and then through my 20s, I say I kind of blew my 20s on a failed acting career. So I spent some time in Los Angeles doing that, and of course, there's nothing like being a poor struggling actor to force you to be a marketing and communications expert to try to get your career off the ground. So that was my 20s, and then I'd had enough of that after about 4 years of running around Los Angeles in a Toyota Tercel with bad AC and a black interior. So I decided, maybe I should go back to school. So I went to the University of Southern California for graduate school, and I have a degree in gerontology, which is a social science, a study of aging, and also a degree in health administration. And so obviously that doesn't have a ton to do with small business management, but I'll get there. And I lived in Spain for a year after I went to school, and I solidified my language skills there. So we do, by the way, offer consulting in Spanish in our office, and many offices do around the country offer consulting in multiple languages. So that can be helpful for some. And then I landed in Pocatello, Idaho, where I grew up again, and started knocking on doors, and became the marketing director at a local hospital here, and then went through a layoff. So I was fortunate to land at Idaho State University. It's a family tradition, I suppose, at this point. Both my parents were professors there. Okay. So I ended up at the College of Business as their marketing director. And of course, the College of Business hosts the Small Business Development Center. And the director at the time said, hey, do you want to, it was a part-time job at the College of Business. Do you want to make it full-time and work for the Small Business Development Center, providing, marketing consulting? And I said, sure. And the health administration training that I had it has a lot of MBA skills involved. So we looked at, of course, studied accounting and financial management and all of that. So it actually worked out to be a really nice blend. And then I became the director of our center here in Pocatello in 2015. And I've been doing that full time, all the time ever since. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know I was working with the director.
Oh, you did it?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you,
So,
Ann.
Yeah, watch your step.
yeah,
10
right.
years.
No, I'm certainly not.
Good for
There's
you.
nothing that important about it except maybe a title. So yes, we're a two-person office here. I
Oh,
work with another consultant named Claudia Allen, who is a certified QuickBooks professional. So we work a lot with bookkeeping and financial management clients on that side. And she also has a lot of background in banking. So we make a really nice team with me and my marketing side skills and her with her bookkeeping side skills. And then
so
there's
is
a lot of
that
things.
also something you offer the community as assistance with QuickBooks and those kinds of things as well?
Right, right.
Helpful.
And that's many offices have that, not all do.
Okay.
But we're fortunate to have a certified QuickBooks person in our staff.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that'll run you probably 120 bucks an hour on the open market. So
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Well, I have what I think is a juicy questions, especially for the folks that are hopefully listening in today, just the new and seasoned clinicians, and especially the new clinicians and even the seasoned ones who have been in the mental health field who want to move into, building their own private practice. And what would you say are some of the, or like two, or the most dominant challenges you notice that for those new clinicians, for those of us who are trying to get out here and build healthy, thriving practices, what would you say are some of the challenges that you often see us struggling with?
yeah. So I think one of the challenges that most new businesses have, including a counseling or business or therapy business, is that they need to take the time to understand their market and understand what their particular value is in that market before
Mm,
they start marketing or building a practice, however you want to put that. So I can give you an example. I work with a counselor who's leaving a university job and then going into private practice. And one of the things that we worked on way before she gave her notice at the university job is what is particularly special about the kinds of services that you can offer. And we thought a lot about, well, she did the thinking. She thought about the kinds of clients she tended to resonate the most with, the kinds of issues she seemed to make the most progress on with clients that she'd been working with in the university setting, and also her own background, where she comes from
mm,
and the audience that she really understands. So I think it's appropriate to share that one of the things that she was really good at was religious transition. And so we landed on that as, that phrase needs to go on your website, right? Religious transition. She also has a great love of the outdoors. And so she and her dad had spent a lot of time together, she had a lot of affinity for kind of blue collar middle-aged men, right? And she had had a lot of success working with them. So that was another piece that we settled on and ended up using some of that in her marketing, that kind of outdoors uh, theme. Yeah. And so the other thing too is that, based on the two things I just said, you've got women in religious transition and middle-aged men, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. So they're very different audiences, but she happens to be really good at both. So we actually customize some of the marketing materials for the women religious transition practice that she wanted to build. And those look a little different than her middle-aged man outdoor kind of marketing materials. So we go print some cards that are more feminine and take those to local gynecology, OBGYN offices, and also some of the females who are running general practice here. So it's a matter of understanding your own value and your own specialties and gifts, and then working with somebody to translate that to a brand and a presence, and then a marketing strategy that targets that particular group.
And I think you said something that is absolutely extraordinary. And Kathy, oftentimes, whether we're in group consultations and some of the amazing things that she's doing, one of the things I love about her, she's always trying to encourage and inspire us to take a look at ourselves as the clinician
Mhm.
and to hone in. And I so appreciate you saying that because, and what I'm noticing both with myself and just other fellow colleagues that are on this journey is it sounds like we really got to give ourselves time to create and to create not from, there's the copycat syndrome thing going on where people are trying to copy paste from other therapists websites and plaster it onto their stuff, but it really sounds like that doesn't work, and that we really have to be able to lean into who we are as the therapist, right? Identify those people we resonate the most. And I think, and Kathy, I would love to hear your brain on this, right? Your brain and your heart, rather. Most clinicians, in my view, what I've noticed is we don't really get asked that, especially when you come from the community realm of working in mental health. We just get told, here's the person you got to see, and that's it. You don't really have a choice. And so, recognizing when you do get on this path of private practice, you get to identify the people you resonate with and that you love to help, right? And so just wanted to hear from you, Kathy. What are your thoughts about that, just on that move of, you know, uh, being in community mental health or organized mental health and making that journey? And then you get to hear somebody like Ann say, you get to identify the person you want to work with and that resonates with you.
Well, first, let's just say what I've got received in the relationship with Anne is just clarity, right? I mean, when I came to her, I had a lot of ideas, and I came to her because I was trying to write my business plan. And then I was like, I just need some help executing these services. And so, with my two businesses, with Willow Creek Counseling and Rewired 360, she was able to help me see the different values there by asking those questions. And I think sometimes we're clouded, in my experience as an EMDR therapist, trying to look at our specialties, and we're just doing this training on EMDR. We're just doing these other things, and all the while being a certified thanatologist working in death, dying, and bereavement, I didn't realize, that was the value proposition. And I think what I would say is just go to your resume and look at the trainings you've done, and that's going to help you kind of hone in on those specialties and those values, so that we can be able to look at where we fit. And you, in private practice, you get to develop a life that serves you first in your schedule and your practice. And so we really get from that generalist perspective as a new therapist accepting any client on a billable hour to where we can receive that specialty in private practice. And then my experience was taking that even bigger in a training business, so that I can have some supports there. And I think one of the values that Ann shared, it's very correct, is, you will pay a lot for these kinds of services. I've taken classes, I've taken all these things to try to improve myself and my understanding, but my relationship with the business center has been just specific to me and my business practice. I can learn a lot, but I think Ann and I are in the place now where it's execute. That's my word, on my screen, it's execute. And so just given that confidence to where I have somebody in the business realm that sees me, that understands my plan, having that accountability, where she's like, these are the tasks you can do. And getting those out there, I think, is just a valuable support. So I would just encourage any therapist that's considering a private practice to consider working with the business development center, or even just trying to find those resources, because you don't have to do it alone. So many times we feel like we have to do it alone, and we really don't.
That's right. That's right. Um, Many of my, I would say, most successful clients uh, are those that have worked with me over time. So over months or a year or years even, who do use the SBDC like that, like this sort of constant check-in where you can really filter out what are the tasks that I should be focusing on right now. And it's a great way to bounce ideas off somebody who has a little bit of objectivity from from where you're sitting. And I think focus is it's not an easy consulting skill to define, but I think you know it when you feel it. Instead of, I should do this, this, and this, and this, and this, right? And I can say, well, why do you want to do numbers 2 and 3? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay, well, maybe let's focus on 4 and 5. And these are the results that we want to get out of steps 4 and 5. And that's one of my favorite things to help clients do. And I also think it's one of the most valuable things that we can help clients do.
Oh, that kind of led me right into the heart of my question, and I thank you for sharing that because that really speaks to me. I'm grateful, first of all, because I had no idea you all existed all across
Oh,
I had no idea. So that is a win. And again, encouraging those therapy entrepreneurs to check out the SBDC in your area, okay, and just really receive a lot of the support you're probably looking for. Help us getting started. I was going to ask, what would you say, Ann, are some of those fundamental things that a new entrepreneur would need to make sure they have in place so that they have a good foundation or start on their path of building their business?
yeah. Well, there's practical things that every business needs to have. Of course, starting with your entity formation. So whether you set up a practice as an LLC, and that's typical. You can also be a professional LLC, a PLCC, if you are a therapist or any kind of medically related provider. So getting just the really boring kind of filling out the form stuff out of the way, we can make sure that you're filling out the right forms, and if you have questions about the forms, and that you don't pay somebody else to fill them out for you, because none of the startup uh, processes should cost more than about $100. You can certainly pay a lawyer to do it for much more than that, but you don't need to. So um, getting those basic pieces in place, your choice of entity, you have to get an EIN from the IRS. We can help you do that. And then there's another registration that's new this year with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. We can give you the links to do that. So there's some real basic things, just paperwork that we can help you get through easily. And there's so many acronyms in there, don't don't expect to remember them all. Just ask us and we'll give you a good checklist. Uh, the, and building on top of that, if you're going to have any employees, we can help you make sure you're set up correctly to manage that process. Um, the other piece that's business basic is some kind of bookkeeping system. And there's a lot of kind of you factor with setting up accounting. Not everybody loves it. It's true. It's not my cup of tea. There's not what I love to do, but any business really has to have a way of documenting their income and their expenses. And whether that's with something like QuickBooks or another program or even an Excel spreadsheet, that has to be in place. That's a fundamental. And then, of course, as a counselor, practitioner, you'll need to have your credentialing finished. You'll need to have a way to manage your practice. I mean, Simple Practice is one that a lot of people use. And then your marketing pieces. And so those items I just went through, that's kind of your basic. Here you're starting a new business, counseling business. you got to cover all of those.
I think sometimes too, when you're first starting out, I think it's important to talk about the importance of the LLC. I'd like to hear from you on that. I think people have done just under their social security number,
Mhm.
don't have an LLC, or then they do, they have a tax ID, then they get to that, and then they have the LLC. So there's a few steps I've seen therapists take in sort of going private practice. Can you talk about the importance of getting the LLC versus just having an EIN?
Yeah, sure. So anybody can have a business. I can go out and put up a lemonade stand in my yard, and I can register or report my income and my expenses on my tax return. That's a sole proprietor. I don't have to tell anybody else I'm doing it. All I do is say at the end of the year, Ann Swanson social security number made $50 on lemonade. Actually, maybe 5,000. Let's think big. So that is fine to do it that way. 90% of the time, though, an LLC is the best thing for a small business to have for several reasons. First of all, it creates a separation, a legal separation between you, the person, and then your business. So that means when you have an LLC, you have a separate bank account for the business, and you have a separate tax ID number for the business. And I mentioned that earlier, the EIN number. So those are important because although there's no legal guarantee that no one would ever sue you, that the LLC doesn't provide that, it does create that legal, they call it a veil in legal term, between the person and the business. So for that reason, I think an LLC is worth having. And then,
my question there on that, is
yeah.
it really matter if you have a PLLC or an LLC?
Oh, no, not particularly. You just, some people just like the way it looks, and it's kind of historical. Yeah. So the LLC is it's very standard at this point, and there's usually not a great reason not to get one. There's only positives on that.
So just saying, for me, I mean, I like having the assurance of an LLC versus just an individual sole proprietor, right? I think, I've been reviewing history, looking at capitalism and communism, and the idea that we can just put up a lemonade stand and have a job that we love is something that I'll always appreciate. I love
Yeah.
and entrepreneurship, and so I think the spirit of that, is very important. I think when I first started doing, billable hour, I thought, oh, this is it. I'm just going to be a therapist doing billable hour, and private practice is just for those people. And so I think there came a time when I had my daughter, and I was hustling for pennies, and I thought, I have my clinical license. Why am I doing this? I don't need to be doing this. And so I started seeing patients on the side, and then I worked at a hospital, and I thought, I could do this full time. And I do use Simple Practice as well. I had another electronic health record, and it was just very difficult and not as organized. So I think I would say for new entrepreneurs, it just takes time to experiment with yourself, experiment with the market. Maybe your specialty you think you have isn't going to be something that you, that is what it gets people to come to you. And so I think those market niches are important, like your story with the lady and your client that had both populations with religious transition and middle-aged men. I think that's finding your niche and saying, I do this. People really respond to that. And I think that's creating your value proposition, and then creating that to your brand and your brand voice. And this is what we do. So, what I had found with Rewired 360 is that clinicians were coming to me struggling as they were trying to get certified. Like, I'm just going to do an hour with you. I'll do an hour with you. And you see all these posts and, this competition, we call it the red ocean, where everyone's competing for the same pool. And it's like, what you do helps people be in the blue ocean. It's the blue ocean strategy. And
Mm,
it's this book here if you're watching on YouTube here. And that's where we're all trusting and we're all in it together. And so having your niche is going to help you feel more confident. Your parasympathetic nervous system is going to be resting and digesting. It's not going to be in that frenetic energy. And so I think that's so important just as a business owner. And I think also too, it's important to have someone on the sidelines cheering you on and celebrating your wins. I love celebration. I went to a leadership conference and they were talking about inspiring teams, and one of the key points was celebrating. And so the wins. And so I think that's important. What, Ann's given me is that celebration, like you set a goal and you did it. Look,
yeah, yeah,
you did. Cause I'm kind of like,
yeah,
as an owner, you have so many hats and roles. And
yeah.
so that encouragement and that validation, uh, is important, especially when you're starting up, right?
Yeah, I think that many people that see us are going solo for the first time, maybe ever, and it can get a little lonely
Yeah.
to um, to be, not only um, as a counselor in a private practice. I mean, you are by yourself. I mean, you work with one other person, your client, and you often don't have a team around you as you might in a larger setting. And so we love that role. We love that role where we can be the person who is cheering you on and celebrating your success and helping you see your own value too.
That this was such a needed conversation, I must say, because I feel like you are talking to me. Because
Okay,
it's so true
good.
that I just took the leap. And my hope
Mhm.
with this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you came on and spent this time with us, is one of my passions is about helping the new clinicians that are stepping
Mm,
into them and hoping to curve or helping them to not be start that practice or that habit of throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to see
yeah,
what's going to stick, because I've seen it in myself. It just decreases our creativity. It just drains us. And then it decreases our hope, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. I've spent
right.
a lot of years throwing spaghetti at the wall, you know? And so, but to hear you come in now and just holding space for so many of us as entrepreneurs, realizing that there's always that chaos of the busyness of life and trying to get stuff done, but that the heart of it all is us and us taking time to get clear. And to me, that's the exercise, y'all, of you're gonna have to do the work, and not just do the work, but do the intentional work, the
Mm,
critical thinking work about who you
yeah.
are, what you want, where do you want to go, and then being open to receiving that constructive feedback and all those wonderful things that sometimes because we want it now and I
Mhm.
gotta have it and I gotta do it now. And so this really gives me hope. It gives me hope that number one, as Kathy had said, you gotta just take the journey. In other words, is how I heard it, right? Take the journey, give yourself time, you know.
Mm,
And so it's so validating, and I'm hoping that those who come across this conversation will begin to recognize their humanness in the journey and that we need help. Find your people, like at the small business development centers in your area. Find your people,
And
right?
moving in the direction you want to go, right? It's so cool when I go and do things. So for Willow Creek, for example, I've been trying to market my couples and my EMDR intensives. And so Ann and I came up with a plan to be able to go to the community. We're taking community baskets around, engaging the
mhm,
community in different ways and working with different strategies, feedback on my brochure. The website was really important. And I got all that in my classes, but it wasn't strategy for me. It was more knowledge. And so she very kindly said,
Mm.
Kathy, you just need to be done taking classes. You're ready. I thought, okay. And I thought, oh, because we can, as therapists, I was trying to explain to someone the other day, we love learning. We'll stay in learning as long as we can. And I thought, oh, that was very valuable because now I know I can do this. And I think that's really what is important is I can do this, and she sees my vision, right? And that I'm moving in the direction I want to go. And it's good also to have a partner. So I'll share with Tamera a little bit. Kind of when I met her, she had just come off a job layoff and she was struggling in private practice. And then we met and I said, you're an entrepreneur, right? And
Mhm.
it took a while to be able to help develop her products and her services to where she's doing EMDR intensives. And with the consultants I work with, I'm telling them, look, we're treating therapists, we're in the certification program, we're helping therapists target the patients, but in the consultation program, we're working with other therapists as new business owners and
Mhm.
a new service and a new development. So it's taking time for those consultants to be able to develop themselves in that way. I guess my question to you, Anne, is being a consultant in a different realm,
Mhm.
business and marketing. Can you talk a little bit about the role of the consultant and the process of having a consulting business and any strategies there for those EMDR?
Yeah. Um, that's a great question. I don't get that very much. What is the role of a consultant? Well, I certainly have my answer that served me well, um, and I actually teach students this as well. So I'll speak to a couple of those points. First of all, the consultant's job is to listen, and you all know that very well, right? That is the first job, is to listen, and then the second job is to ask questions. And that kind of approach to conversation works very well because my job as a consultant is to uh, bring all the resources that are already in you to bear on the situation first. I mean, um, that comes up quite a bit. People say, I just don't know anything. I don't, I'm so lost. And almost everybody knows more than they think they do. Particularly when you're talking about your own reflections on your value, right? You do know that.
Okay.
Sometimes you just haven't stopped to think about it yet, because you're worried about whatever else issue popped into your head last night. So um, listening, asking questions, helping people see their own value and understand their own uh, skills that they can bring to their new business. And then only at that point, after we do those three things, do I start making my own suggestions or making my own, or bringing other resources to bear on it. Um, and we are advisors, but if an advisor leads with advice, then the chances of that landing and being right for the person are pretty slim. So
Right.
there's a lot of um, listening and questioning, and I don't always do that perfectly, but that's my intention. I think that's how I approach consulting. Um, and then after those conversations happen, and my job is to follow up and check in and see how are things going. So I'm um, I'm there to create a relationship with a client and to really serve as someone who believes in them. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so beautiful, right? Because I work with consultants a lot, and Tamira is one of them now, CIT, consultant in training. And so it's like helping them see the value that they're bringing and that listening component. A lot of times they're like, what am I supposed to do in my sessions with my consultees? They have to have 5 before they're able to apply to be a consultant. And I said, you just listen, start with relationship building, don't get caught in the red ocean. And I think for me, I'm a relational person, and my experience when I started the EMDR journey was there were no lasting mentorship relationships. And that's different in the culture with Rewired 360 is we'll take you from the basic training, we'll take you all the way to be a trainer, we'll make it transparent, we'll make it attainable. If you have questions, we're here, we'll build a community. And that really was absent in the marketplace. And
Mhm.
now I can say that I don't know that I would have been able to articulate what that feeling or that description of the community was before. And now I can say, this is what it is, and this is what's missing. And the way I did that was by listening from my consultees saying, listen, I'm just struggling doing 1 hour here, 1 hour there with you and them and this. And how do I become a consultant? And it's like, you already have the skills, and
Mhm.
just helping them land in that and be present in relationship. So what you're saying is pretty much what we do in counseling, right? And therapy. But that empowerment, that validation, that being seen, and not in my leadership, experience, it's not that dictatorship leadership, even in organizations. It's that listen to the people that are implementing the protocol or implementing that know the patient and being able to let them take the lead. That's just such a powerful tool. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I am fortunate to work in an organization. The Small Business Development Center is about 50 people all over Idaho, and you're spot on in terms of how that also translates to organizational leadership. Listening, um, helping the people that work with you uh, expose their own expertise, making sure that they have a voice in what's happening in their organization and within their day-to-day practice as a consultant, as a counselor, whatever you are. I've seen that work really well in my network. I have a great boss, I have a great leadership team, and uh, that is it's a huge it's a huge perk. It's one of the main reasons why I stay and do what I do, is that culture exists in our organization, and I think that makes it easier for me to extend it to my clients.
That's so important because when you go to basic trainings, when I went to my basic training, there were a trainer, and then there were consultants that help us implement the protocol. And the consultants, you could feel in the room that there wasn't a unity between them. It was the first time they were meeting or working together. There
Mm,
was not a team cohesion. They didn't have that working relationship and understanding. That was a feeling and observation. I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. And so through these experiences and my work with Tamera, it's we're creating a new standard, a new culture. We're raising that bar to where I know her, she knows me, I know my consultants, they're a team. I don't have to go hustling for someone to help during my basic training. We're a team. And then I can help her create her own company, with the curriculum and the vision and say, okay, you're trained. Go ahead and do what you do, reach your market. She's talked a lot about her Christian market, her African American market. I've talked a
mhm,
lot about my religious trauma market, my grief market. And so
mhm,
you go do you and reach those people. I have a consultant that wants to be trained to reach people in Jamaica, and they have sort of
mm,
um, a view of people coming in and, changing things, just like the colonialism when I was in West Africa. The British came in and overtook West African countries and colonization. And so there was a mistrust, right? So you
mhm,
have to find your stakeholders that can go into those communities to be able to deliver the message, maybe that I can't. And so it's really important
mhm,
to
mhm,
build those people on my team too, and be able to give them the tools and coach them along the way, but not leave them behind. It's not here, do this, and then you're done. It's let's keep being a team. And so that is the core of what we're doing here. And I think it's felt, there's a felt sense, there's a unity, there's a companionship, a camaraderie. And I think that's sort of my value as well, as sort of the unseen, right?
Yeah, I just love that. I loved your share on that. Everything that you ladies have shared, I think is so valuable. You know, it and so meaningful in the time that we're in. I loved Kathy and I have been talking about raising the standard, raising a standard for ourselves as just human beings and the multiple roles we play, and then raising a standard in what we see in the mental health field, and making the shift and creating that invitation for other therapists to, number one, make that transition from the traditional methods and ways of doing therapy that have been long held. And that can be a little bit of a challenge, but it just is almost like the world almost is calling for change. And Kathy and I are courageously saying yes to this calling. And I'm just so grateful to hear and to know, that there are centers, that there are consultants, that there is help. There's so many therapists, like myself. When I met Kathy, I had really just grown tired of other people having charge over my income, and that they could pull the carpet without notice. And I'm a
Yeah.
mom. I got four
Me too.
sons.
Yeah,
It
same.
just
Yeah.
wasn't, I was so, and I was listening to Kathy too, and it resonated with me as well, and saying, no, you're trading all this time for these pennies, and it's so much you're doing, but it doesn't feel like you're being paid what you're worth with all the value you're bringing. I was there too, especially having a heavy load where you're serving 40 clients a week and all the things that we often have to do when we're working for organized therapy and all that. But the thing I think is incredible, if we can call for courage and if we're willing to get
Yes.
present with the current time, is that there is help for us. And I mean, in my view, I think sometimes some of the conversations can be cliche, but Ann, you have really, really uh, pointed towards a guiding star of helping us to recognize, number one, that we, in the dream and the vision we have, it matters, and it has to be painted on the canvas, right? Not just something we're living in our mind.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
number two, that you need to have someone who is a professional and skilled to journey with you, that would champion with you, cheerlead with you, help you to, take stock of where you're going, give you the feedback that you need, and also, kind of give a little accountability there, right? You don't want to be throwing spaghetti at the wall. Why are you going to do this and not do that? So helping to hone in that focus, and then that believing. I've learned
Mhm.
this year how valuable having at least a person on your team who truly believes in what you're saying and isn't trying to edit and tell you what you can't do for this world,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah, that's exactly where I felt. I had a background at Boise State University when I went to my basic training. I had been adjunct faculty, had been teaching a long time. And so I was like, so what does it take to be a trainer? And there was this, oh, it takes a lot. You can't do that. That's for people who are highly skilled. And so I thought, oh, okay, maybe and what I found was that for me and my person and my skill set, it was very attainable. And how, I was nervous to write the basic training. And so I was like, oh, I don't think I can do that. And what my experience was there was a company that said, hey, would you write just the 8-phase protocol for us and publish it? And I said, sure. And so that never happened. And so I thought, okay. And I was looking at the basic training curriculum. Tamera and I were like, okay, let's look at this. And I looked at the questions and I'm like, I already have this whole thing written out. It's just a matter of putting it in a curriculum format and sending it in. And so I think just encouraging people that they're going to bring their flavor. And it's important to know that these things are attainable and that we don't have to be the gatekeepers of the entire thing, that we can support and encourage people. And this is the thought, is there is enough. There is enough and we are enough. And I think when you feel that and you see a consultant lay with you and partner with you in that experience, they're going to come back. And so I think those innate strategies too are those things that can't be planned, right? They're just a little extra gold on the canvas per se, right? And so it's so fun to be able to know that, oh, that's a value I'm bringing too, as me as a person, or my interpersonal relationships, or my leadership style. Because there were times as a new leader when I have things I regret and, maybe was fearful more than I should have, or more restrictive. And so now I've learned that it doesn't have to be that way. And I would always look at people in private practice going, whoa, how can you trust that much? How can you step out to yourself that much and trust that people will come? They're coming. They're coming to my intensives. They're coming to my Gottman couples intensives. They're coming to EMDR. They need it. And so it's like when they show up after I've developed this whole plan and they show up, it's the most exciting thing,
Oh, it's a wonder. It's just the best feeling.
Yeah.
Really. It's great.
All these
You
hours,
ladies have given so many amazing wisdom nuggets, strategies, and pointed out some of those stepping stones, for people who are just getting started, or even for the seasoned clinician that has maybe felt stuck and limited and is ready to do something new and daring, like building your incredible thriving practice. I want to ask you, Ann, before we have to surrender you for today, is, do you have any last words that you want to share with our listening audience that would empower or encourage them on their journey?
Mm. Wow. I think it's going to be maybe a little anticlimactic, but show up. Show up for your appointments with the SBDC. Show up even if you don't feel like it, or you have something else that actually should be done because your brain is on fire with all the things you need to do or think you need to do as a small business. It's really important to show up for time to work on your business and not in your business.
Ooh, yay! Look at her face.
Oh, wow.
That was the most
That's the bumper sticker.
Oh,
I don't think I came up with that, but I think that kind of distills it, because showing up for yourself and for your appointments that are about working on your business are going to make working in your business, number one, easier and more successful. But it's also going to make it more relaxed for you ultimately. I know it feels at the time, I don't have time to go see my accountant. I don't have time to go to the SBDC. I don't really have time to visit with Kathy today. I'm too stressed, right? But it's almost like exercise. You've got to just go to the gym. The hardest part is getting there. And maybe you don't love it when you do it, but when you're done, it feels so good. And the rest of your day is better. So I recommend approaching working on your business with that way.
Writing that down. I'm going to make a quote out of that, Ann.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I'm going to borrow that too.
You bet.
Okay.
You just have it. It's free.
You just
We're
came
free. Consulting.
and just said, show up. And then you did it with such, the thing that I loved about how you shared that is that it came with so much accountability for what we say we want, but also a lot of compassion, right? But directness and saying, show up. Okay. If you're good, on the not so good, show up, right? Because what you have to offer, what you're here to do, the change that you can bring to your community and even to your own self and your own family, it all matters. But you've got to show up. Okay.
You have to show up. And if I just want to add one more little thing, you don't even have to do it great. I think part of the reason, something that keeps people from showing up is like, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not going to do a good job. I don't feel well today. I have a headache. It's not going to be my best consulting session ever. It doesn't matter. Show up and do it anyway, even if it's not your best work, even if you're not in the mood. It's okay. Just do it.
Just show up. That is incredible. And we thank you so much. And hopefully, I'm sure we will see you again, and not just see you, but hear from you again. Such an
Thank,
amazing heart and presence on helping folks like me and Kathy, and just other beautiful human beings who are here to make a difference, or share something, share their gifts, share their heart with the world, make our world a little bit
We
better,
go
more
out, I did want
efficient,
to say
right?
on that concept of organizational leadership, we will have Michael Woolston coming in here in a couple of on the season 2 podcast to talk about organizational leadership.
I love
And
it.
I met him at the Idaho Business Summit here in Twin Falls. So we're going to have him on to talk about that concept because that is so, so important. So that talk's coming, y'all. Stay
I'm
tuned
so
and listen
excited.
and get him on here.
So excited. And so we are so grateful, so thankful to you and to those who are listening in to the conversation. I hope you had your pencil, your notepad to take down juicy wisdom nuggets. And I'm going to turn this hot mic over to my co host, Kathy, so she can tell folks where to find us and all the amazing things to get connected.
Yep. So I'm Kathy Couch, here in Twin Falls, Idaho, with Willow Creek Counseling and Rewired 360, offering EMDR and couples intensives and a way to help you on your EMDR career path. We thank our guest speaker today, Ann, with all of the guidance and guiding light and wisdom she's helped on all three of those companies. And we are so grateful today. Tamera is the CEO of Arise Psychotherapy, and I am the CEO of Rewired 360 in Willow Creek. And we're just so excited to have these conversations. So stay tuned. This summer, we're going to have a great launch of all of our podcast seasons. And we just look forward to continuing journeying through the eyes. Make sure you look at our new image that Tamera came up with for season 2. It's stellar. So until next time.
Have an amazing day.